Well, hello and good morning. We are live here on Bowles TV, BOLES.TV, .television. And everything sounds very loud. I don't know if it's just me or if it's just you, but I guess the air conditioning just turned on. That's what I'm hearing in the background. You shouldn't be hearing it, though, because we have noise suppression enabled. Well, it's a Monday, and currently we have high humidity and 63 degrees in the New York City area. Over the weekend, rough times. Oh boy, what we hit 93 and 92? That was a little bit much. And I'm adjusting my headphones and my microphone, trying to find out what the right sound is. Hey, it's Monday. Welcome to Monday. So Jana had a wild stream over the weekend. Saturdays and Sundays, right here at 11 a.m. And we are here with you Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. And it was a very interesting show because we're talking about health and lymphedema and high blood pressure. And it was quite alarming and interesting because lymphedema is a heck of a thing. Especially if you happen to get it in your legs and you can't move and you can't walk, and maybe you have a little bit in your arm and you can't really move your arm very well. But they had a wonderful conversation. And our friend Kathy G, who is currently recovering from a little bout with lymphedema, was in hospital for a while, got her COVID shots, thank goodness. She then went to assisted living or rehab, wherever she is. She's leaving there soon, getting her second COVID shot today. Wednesday, she's out and back to her apartment, where we wish her all the best luck. And Kathy has been wildly posting in our Discord server, in the fun area, in the David Bowles area, in the success area of Jana Marie, hundreds of photographs of her life, of her friends, of her health woes, and it's all very appreciated and very fun because it really makes for great conversation. So Kathy G, wherever you are, we thank you so much for being a part of our show on the weekends and being a part of this live stream, tangentially because of your participation in our wonderful Discord server. Thank you so much. And if you're interested in joining our Discord server, my bot was not working this morning, so I'm going to see if the bot will work now. If I type in Discord, is it going to say Streamlabs or is it going to say Bowles Bot? I've done nothing. Nothing has changed. Everything is fine. Why is this Streamlabs? It's not supposed to. Such are the wonders of the world and the amazement of where we stand in time and space. Slightly disappointing, but I will live, and I will live with it. So last week I told you about the special project that I was going to be involved in, and I'm not allowed to tell you what, why, where, how, who, what, but I can generally snip around the edges of it. So there's a major social media company experimenting with NFTs, non-fungible tokens, artwork, and connecting them to your main account, which is an interesting project because Ethereum is crashing and Bitcoin is crashing, so nobody's really buying or selling right now because everyone's terrified. But time and tide waits for no Bitcoin, so you just continue on. And while Bitcoin may die and Ethereum may die, the blockchain is here forever. The blockchain is where we're going to live our lives from now on because it's safe, it's secure, it's decentralized, and it's going to be the way forward. It's going to be terrific. So I'm having this conversation that was supposed to be a telephone conversation, and then at the last moment they changed it for whatever reason to a Zoom call. So it's a Zoom call, you got to get all ready, you have to fix your hair, you have to turn lights on, you got to get these lights on, you have to shake this one so it turns back on brighter. Yeah. Big thing. But I did it. And I'm told, hey, excuse me, I'm beating hot box, 9 a.m. by my neighbors. Hey, if you want to be part of this, and right now you are one of 10 in the entire world, one of 10. This is not even a beta test. This is an alpha test. Which, if you've ever done beta testing, alpha testing before, is really terrible because everything goes wrong in the alpha test. Beta tests are usually a little bit better. I used to beta test everything. Everything I had was on a beta. And then as you get older and you learn more and you realize being on beta software is a very, very dangerous way to live. Unless you have like one machine that you're not really using, that's an older machine, which they don't really want. They want newer machines. An older machine, and you run your beta on that. But the idea is for you, as Microsoft says, to eat your own dog food. So if you work at Microsoft, everything you're on is on beta. And if there are problems, you report it. Well, I don't work for Microsoft. And Microsoft's not the company I'm talking about, but I don't want to eat my own dog food. I'm not programming anything. I'm not making anything. I just want to sit here and live my life and not have Windows 11 croak on me every 2 weeks. But other than that, beta's great. But I thought, okay, for this, it's a limited thing. It's a social media thing. I can, silo it. It's not going to affect really the rest of my life in any way. Operating systems, betas, they affect your life rather dramatically. So I said, okay, we'll have this meeting. We had the meeting. And they said, well, the Ethereum wallet you're currently using isn't compatible with our system. You have to be on this wallet. Will you change? So I said, well, I think about it. I said, okay, well, let us know because you're one of 10. You don't want to miss out. It's starting, a couple of weeks. We're going to be there. Okay. So we entered the call and I started thinking about it. I thought, now that is a rare and difficult ask. Because I'm sitting here with all of my stuff, NFTs, in one wallet, right? And they want me to transfer some, all, most, I don't know, of my NFTs from my current wallet to their wallet. And to do that, I would have to pay the gas to move from one wallet to another wallet. And that gas, as we know, can be anywhere from $8 per transaction up to $150 per transaction. And right now I currently have about 50 NFT pieces of art. So, 50 times 10 is $1 million that I would have to transfer in gas fees. Too much. Now, are they going to pay me anything for being involved in this alpha? No. Do you get paid to be an alpha tester, a beta tester? No. So right there, the economics of it don't make any sense at all. Why would I don't care if I'm one of 10, I'm not going to spend $500 transferring all my stuff from one wallet to another. And even if I said, let's say I wanted to just install their wallet and buy a couple of non-fungible tokens that are very cheap and put them in that wallet and then alpha test it that way. Well, then when the alpha test is over, I have two wallets. I have one with all my stuff and one with a little bit of stuff. And then what do I do? Well, in the new wallet, I would transfer to my old wallet, which is going to cost me gas fees. So I thought about it, over the weekend lightly, not heavily. And I thought there's really no way that this can work in any circumstance because I'm not paying one penny to be involved in an alpha test. Which is sort of sad because I think the idea and the implementation of this could be really, really super duper interesting. But I don't believe there's a penny of assistance in paying for gas fees, which is something that they should have really thought about early on. They should, take all of the major wallets, Ethereum wallets, NFT wallets, and put them all together, right? When the alpha starts, if you want the most people involved. I don't know what the point is, instead of having 10 wallets available and just having 2. I don't get it. But then again, who am I? I'm a young man who sits here Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. and talks to myself. So speaking of big social media, for some reason, the great and mighty Facebook has been going after me. In a troll-like way. I guess it's bots that have been going back in time and scrubbing investigating, looking at, torturing me with, I hate air quotes, but it's appropriate this time, community violations of a sexual nature. And this bot has been removing some of my Facebook posts as far back as 2017 and 2016. Which is alarming because violations or not, those posts have been on Facebook for what? 5 years, 6 years? I mean, what is the point of going back in time like that to take a look and see what's happening? I don't know, and I don't really understand it. So let's take a look and see what the excitement's all about. I put this on Twitter. Hey, help me out, Facebook. Just told me I violated community standards with this post from 2017. Suggesting a modern update to Andrew Wyeth's House on a Hill, which I thought was deliciously ingenious. I don't get it. I filed a counter complaint. Your post goes against our community standards on adult sexual solicitation. Well, that sounds dangerous, right? And as I said last week, I'm very careful when I post on social media. I really don't try to get very political. I'm certainly never sexual. Sometimes I try to be funny. But most of them are just observations about artwork and photographs that I find or that people send me and that I post. That's all I do because I don't want this kind of harassment. I don't need it in my life from Facebook. Only people who manage the David Bowles page can see this post. We have standards to keep people safe. Repeatedly violating our community standards can cause further account restrictions. Hey, if you think we've made a mistake in the description. Oh, okay, really? Thanks. So here I go from September 11 of 2017. Andrew Wyeth's American Funhouse. Okay. It's a woman standing in the debris of a roller coaster at a former funhouse. And if you're familiar with the original Andrew Wyeth, with the woman sitting on a hill in a field of grass, looking up at the house, you can see how this is sort of interesting. What, my friend, is it? Adult sexual solicitation. Now, you sit here and you look at this and you wonder, okay, what's triggering that? Because obviously nobody, no bot, no person is looking at the post. So they're parsing it. Maybe visually, but probably more likely and more easily textually. So what is the text in this post that would cause that kind of condemnation? I'm assuming it's the words funhouse. I mean, maybe that's a code phrase for something sexually explicit. I don't know. I've never heard of it, but I am old and dumb, so I'm sure I'm missing something. So, then we go back and forth. So I objected. I said, hey, look, this does not go against community standards. It should be put back up. And then they said, hey, Facebook, hey, sorry we got this wrong. We reviewed the post again and it does follow our community standards. So they took it back. And I guess the post is now back live. I don't know if it is. I haven't checked because I really don't care. But it makes you think, what is going on? Why me? What have I done? But there's no rest for the weary. And the next day I get this notification from Facebook, and I again posted it on Twitter. Facebook is coming after me again for violating their sexual community standards. This time they hit my lube strip razor review from 2016. I'm not sure why my account is getting all this extra. We're looking for sex things from you, but it's getting dry. Someone lube me up. Here's the message from Facebook. Your post goes against our community standards on adult sexual solicitation. Again, same thing. They are targeting me for some reason, and when I get targeted, I get triggered. Same thing, we have standards, you're going against it. Hey, you can disagree with this decision if you got it wrong. So I disagreed, and it's a process. You have to click on this, I dispute. I accept the decision, I dispute the decision. I dispute the decision. Then you get another page. Why are you disputing this? What's wrong with you? Well, you get several selections, and the final one is, I don't think that this goes against community standards. And then you submit. Okay, you've disagreed with our decision. And this was the post that got the sexual connotation flag. The new Gillette Fusion Pro Shield Chill disappoints. Rough shave, scratchy. Maybe there's such a thing as too much lube. Because it has a lubricating strip at the top, which is like the whole thing that they're selling. And this wasn't a paid post or anything. This is just something I was reviewing because at that time I was into all kinds of different kinds of razors. Straight razors, double-edged razors, razors with 5 blades. Hey, it's Mr. Gordon. Hey, Commissioner. I once got a post flag for being an advertisement that I had not paid for. I wrote back, no. I was just showing a photo of my kids at the American Museum of Natural History, and they retracted. I don't know what's going on. And then you see this other junky stuff, Mr. Gordon, that's on Facebook that is allowed to remain. And they come after you and your museum and me on my razor lube strip. Now, this one I know they didn't look at. There's nothing that even if you're looking at it with a machine that the image could be taken sexually. It's got to be the word, the text lube. It's the only thing I can think of. So lube job, monkey lube. If you have lube in your name, you're in trouble with Facebook. So I disagreed with that. And they said, hey, this is a minute later, by the way, after I disagreed. Hey, we're sorry we got this wrong. We reviewed the post again, and hey, it does follow our community standards. Meow. So what's the point of this? I don't understand what the point of it is. Why? Why are they coming after me? What have I done to them? And it gets a little boring to keep having to defend yourself and defend really old things. Now, if I were posting these things and they had just been posted and they said, hey, we're taking this down because you have violated our... Okay, it's real time, sort of. It's happening within the realm of a day, a content. But to go back in time and to scrub my account, which is here's what they're doing, to look for things that they find offensive in order to punish me and take my stuff offline is very bizarre. And I've never had that experience with the Twitter. I've never had that experience even with Instagram. And really, it's all the same stuff. Gets posted the same place everywhere. I don't know why Facebook is now on this tangent. Speaking of good news, our old pal John Fetterman is out of the hospital. Had a stroke, had a little pacemaker implanted. This is him walking out strong in his hoodie and his shorts. All 6'8" of him. Running for senator, United States Senator, from the great state of Pennsylvania. I'm very delighted that he is there and feeling better. Now, this is him. I don't know if it's in the hospital or not, but there he is. It looks like it's in the hospital. Now, look at this guy, right? And he's a Democrat. And he's big, and he's from the Rust Belt. And he has no hair, he doesn't wear a tie or suits. Now, you look at John Fetterman. and let's say he's running for president, and he's running against one of those let's say he's running against Marco Rubio, or Tom Cotton, or Josh Hawley, even DeSantis, the scrubbed, Puritan, none for you, all for me types. And they're sitting there, freshly pressed, all pine-soled up on the debate stage. And here comes Big John Fetterman, 6'8", saunters over them, towers above them, shakes their hand, goes back, dressed just like this, with a towel over his shoulder, let's say. And they talk about everyday life and what's happening and what you're going to do to help the people. Now, I'm telling you, this John Fetterman is going to speak to those blue-collar Democrats in the Rust Belt who work hard and want to provide for their families. John Fetterman comes from there. He understands them. Marco Rubio? Josh Hawley? They're the elites. They're for big business. They're for promoting billionaires. They're not for the regular people. But you have a hard time making that case with a Pete Buttigieg, who I love, or an AOC, or a Kamala Harris, or even a Joe Biden. Because they don't have the authenticity from the street that John Fetterman has. And what's really interesting about John Fetterman is his wife, who is a wonderful, spectacular person. And I believe she happens to be Brazilian. And there are people in Pennsylvania who say, oh my gosh, this John Fetterman guy married that. And they're very open about it and hateful about it. And they think it diminishes him as a candidate. I think it elevates him. Giselle Barreto Fetterman, wife of Pennsylvania's lieutenant governor, went to a grocery store on Sunday to pick up some golden kiwis. And this is a little old. This is from 2020, okay? We know what's going on in 2020. In a last-minute dash, she headed to a local Aldi store without state troopers who usually protect her. 3 boxes of kiwis in hand. Miss Fetterman was standing in line to pay when a woman stopped and stared at her. Oh, there's that N-word that Fetterman married. Miss Fetterman recalled the woman saying to her, emphasizing in a phone interview on Monday, that the woman used a racial slur without abbreviating it into the N-word. Miss Fetterman, who shares an account of the encounter in a tweet Sunday night, said she froze. The woman kept repeating, "You don't belong here." She paid for her produce and headed to her car. The woman then reappeared, pulling down her purple mask and repeating the racial slur to Miss Fetterman, who recorded the encounter and shared it with her followers on social media. Now, I'm torn if we want to play this or not. Okay, it's not playing any audio, but it's okay. But she's telling her to get out and using the N-word. But she followed her into the parking lot, and this is Miss Fetterman's video of what she said. "I love this country, but we are deeply divided. I ran to a local grocery store and was met and verbally assaulted by this woman who repeatedly told me I don't belong here." The conversation continued to the parking lot. So that's from 2020. And this article is from 2021. Talking about Fetterman and his beautiful wife, smart wife, and beautiful smart family. Okay? And you read this article, some might say a fluff piece from People magazine, but you come away with a very strong idea that this guy right here is a nightmare for the Republicans. He's authentic, he's big, he's tough. He'll punch you in the face. You insult his wife. And yet he's a very kind, loving father and husband, as you can tell. He'll be very hard to beat. The only thing that will beat him, I will now say, is himself. And it's his wife who noticed, hey, you're not quite talking right. Your face looks off. She's the one who figured out he was having a stroke. And she got him right to the hospital, and within the golden hour, they were able to dissolve that terrible blood clot, I guess, that was in his brain, and she helped save his life. And she's the one who doesn't belong here. I mean, it's just such ridiculous, outrageous stuff that just sinks you to the core. And there's Fetterman when he was young and tough. Huh? You know this guy from high school. He'd have cigarettes rolled up in his arm sleeve if he had sleeves. At least that's what it feels like, right? People relate to that. And there's this wonderful family. A dog that they adopted who'd been abused. I mean, come on now. And there's nothing phony about John Fetterman. You can't say he's just doing this to get attention. This is who the guy is. It's where he came from. It's who he wants to become. And now it's time for our blood pressure break of the day. And our lights have gone out. And now they're back. Back in a moment. And we're back from break. I'm David Bowles. This is Bowles.tv, BOLES.tv. And I've left my own chat. We were getting weird sounds that I was listening to on the break, and I've now figured out what it was. Why am I not joining my chat? Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. Okay. And it seemed like there was a very low volume version of Mrs. Fetterman being called the terrible words in the parking lot that was just repeating and playing over and over again. Luckily, I believe we could not hear it very well because I couldn't hear it very well. And the music covered it. But we'll see. We might get slapped with some kind of violation somewhere from saying something about something. That seems to be the new way of the world with us, at least, anyway. I don't know why. Oh my gosh, and trying to figure out what everything's going on and why and who. I tell you, it's a very strange world in which you live in, trying to figure out what all of this means in the end. And I don't know what any of it means, which is why I'm here. So last week we talked about XQC. This is Felix. And I have now subsequently blocked him on Twitch. I used to try to watch him. He was sort of interesting. I think he was, better maybe 5 years ago when he started, 7 years ago, whatever it was. Now he's sort of dull and angry and yells at his chat. If you want to see a streamer who really interacts with chat very well, and that some people don't like for his personality, but on Twitch he's magnificent, is Hikaru Nakamura, the GM of the GMs in the chess world. He's really terrific. He interacts with chat, he's super friendly, and he says he learned everything that he knows about live streaming and chat from Felix. And we learned last week that Felix has a gambling problem, lost $1.8 million online gambling. Then he set up a gambling stream, I guess, with a certain online casino, to, I guess, try to win some of his money back through a sponsorship deal. And he was playing a lot online. But he wasn't playing with his money, he was playing with house money. And losing, I guess it's just what he does. So there's really no sympathy for him, and he looks just miserable as he's supposed to be selling and playing these games. And the thing we learned last week is that when you gamble on many of these online sites, perhaps not all of them, that if you, let's say, win $1 million, you can't cash out right away. You have to wait a certain amount of time. Up to 5 years for many of these places. 5 years for you to wait to get paid your $1 million. Because they know in those 5 years you're going to go back and see if you can make it $2 million, and you're going to make it negative $100,000. That's how they play. So I had said, look, I've had enough of Felix. He's now living in his brother's basement in Canada, and he makes $8 million a year. And this article came out that was just fascinating because I learned even more about this inside world of online gambling. The popular content creator known as XQC has been at the center of an ongoing controversy about gambling for the better part of this past year. The contention all started when the streamer began accepting gambling sponsorships, and this is the key, handing out promotional codes to his viewers, the people in his chat. And a high number of those people watching Felix are very young and underage, and they adore him. And that practice attracted all kinds of criticism. The content creator, Felix, said that he would stop accepting sponsorships from gambling companies last year before going on to admit that he himself was addicted to gambling. I'm just so easily addicted, so I just shouldn't gamble, XQC remarked. And we also learned, I guess, that his uncle, his father's brother, uncle to Felix, had a gambling addiction, and then I guess died early, killed himself, something that had to do with gambling. So it's in the family. The father is very worried about his son, Felix. Felix says, I still do. Is that good? No, it's terrible. It's an illness. That's ill. I'm ill. But you know what? I can afford to be ill. I'm lucky, said Felix. The streamer later said he lost almost $2 million to online casinos. And this is where it starts to get very perplexing and super interesting. While he, Felix, said that he would no longer be accepting such gambling sponsorships, the streamer announced earlier this year that he would be partnering with a gambling company called Stake. And he has been playing Stake the last 2 weeks. Having streamed hours of gambling to thousands of his followers, XQC recently revealed the number of users who signed up at the online casino using his promotional codes and how much money these people have already gambled away. Now that's very interesting. It's not that bad, Felix said. $119 million. That's how much his viewers have lost gambling online. It's not crazy, said Felix. That's rookie numbers compared to some of these nut jobs. When criticized by some of his followers, Felix explained how the money always comes back somehow. Now, what does that mean? I guess he's talking about himself, the money coming back, and not his viewers. This appears to have prompted fellow content creator Hassan to convey just how effing bad such sponsorships from gambling companies can be, diving into the details about what exactly happens when a follower applies one of the promotional codes that XQC Felix has been handing out. According to Hassan, these can sometimes lead to streamers like Felix making money when followers lose their bets. And suddenly, with that information, it all seems to be becoming much clearer now about what's really going on. A lot of these websites, Stake and all of them, if they have a code that Felix was handing out to his viewers, if you're offering a code, that means that Stake is tracking all of your losses, and you, as the streamer, are getting a percentage of your fan base's losses. That is quite literally the truth. That is how effing bad it is. They, the online casino, they let you in on it. They let you in on the losses of your effing fan base. Whew. So $119 million to Felix, oh, that's nothing. Really? What's his cut of that money, if there is such a cut? The most popular streamer on Twitch by a wide margin is Felix, XQC. The content creator racked up more than 245 million hours watched over the course of the past year alone. That is phenomenal success, and that's a lot of power. The platform has not yet released an official statement on gambling streams, but some content creators, including Ludwig, who left Twitch for YouTube, have been calling on Twitch to crack down on the practice. It's a problem, but I don't think the onus of whether you gamble or do not gamble should be on the streamer, Ludwig pointed out. I have a theory where I just think that we shouldn't rely on humans to have the morality that we are looking for. It's very insightful. They should not be the ethical person, the streamer. It should be the platform. Like Twitch. Twitch should be the moral center. The platform, Twitch, is the one that should dictate what is okay and not okay. And boy, oh boy, I'm all for that. I mean, imagine you're a young kid and you idolize Felix, XQC, you watch him all day, He hands out a code that you happen to use, and you have some Bitcoin somewhere, mom or dad's credit card. You gamble, you lose the money, and a percentage of what you lost perhaps goes back to Felix. But Felix doesn't tell you that. He just says, let's keep going, let's keep playing, let's see how terrible you can do, and let's find out what happens. It's very disingenuous. And I've watched some of those gambling streams where he just sits there and clicks a button, and roll after roll after roll on these one-armed bandits takes all his money. And he's a miserable person. And it could just be the opposite. He could be handing out codes to something useful, something interesting, something that would delight his viewers, maybe not make him money off of their sorrow and their losses, but that would be better for the goodness of his own soul. But maybe that's not important to him. I don't know. Well, speaking of safety, I received this from Amazon over the weekend, and I didn't even know that this was going on. So there is something going on out there where Felix is giving away codes and Facebook is accusing me of sexual deviancy when there's nothing there. And now Amazon, I've never received an email like this before, sends me this saying, hey, look out, be careful out there. I don't know if it's because we're going into a recession. I don't know if people are freaking out because of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and NFT losses, that people are starting to get snaky. But I thought I'd share this with you because it's very good information from Amazon. And Amazon owns Twitch, by the way, which is very interesting. David Balls. We want to help protect you from scammers that attempt to impersonate Amazon. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I guess it is because they're sending me this email. Remember these important clues that you can identify scams and keep your account and your information safe. 1. Never feel pressured to give information, such as your credit card number or account password over the phone, especially if the call was unexpected. Now that's very good information. I don't really ever answer the phone. If people know me, they can leave a message and I'll call them back. If I don't know them, they can leave a message and I'm not going to call them back. But people feel very tethered to their phone that if the phone rings, they must answer. They must find out who it was. They must call back instantly. And the scammers rely on that sort of impulse. Scammers may try to use calls, texts, and emails to impersonate Amazon customer service. If you're ever unsure if you're actually speaking to Amazon or not, just end the call or the chat and call Amazon directly through the app or the website. Very good information. 2, never, ever, ever pay Amazon over the telephone. Amazon will never call you and ask you to provide payment information, including gift cards or verification cards, as some scammers call them. And they do. They say, go out and get a card, and we have to verify the numbers, so read us all the numbers, take a picture of it, and mail it to us. Products and services over the phone. Very good advice. 3, trust Amazon-owned channels. Always go through the Amazon mobile app or website, then seeking customer support, or when looking to make changes to your account. That seems obvious, but clearly people are being fooled and going places that they don't belong, and then getting scammed. Be aware of false urgency. Scammers may try to create a sense of urgency to persuade you into do what they're asking. Gotta do it right now. In 10 minutes, you haven't paid your bill, we're sending the U.S. Marshals over your house. You have to pay us right now, and we can stop them. But only we can stop them. You can't stop them. We'll stop them when you give us the information we are seeking. Be wary anytime someone tries to convince you that you must act now. Just like the TV commercials. Act now, right now. Time is of the essence. So that's good information from Amazon that I didn't think I needed to know, but obviously they think I need to know. I accept it with glee and appreciation. And this is also a very interesting article. Don't look away from the implicit eugenics of living with COVID. So you have some conservatives saying, oh no, all babies are babies, all fetuses are babies, all children are children. But you can't use them as a tax deduction until they're actually born because they're not really people yet, but we're protecting them until they can become a person. And this whole idea of, well, we don't need a mask. If you get sick with COVID, you just get sick. You'll be fine. The easing of public health measures may bring joy to some, but some of the most vulnerable sections of the population feel abandoned. Interesting take. So what has changed in this idea of keeping people safe? Why do we now not care if we wear masks or not? Mass vaccinations, along with a let it rip approach to the first Omicron wave, created a situation where the government was fairly certain the virus would largely only hospitalize and or kill, along with the unvaccinated, the immunocompromised, and the elderly. Well, that analysis is not likely revelatory, and most particularly not the readership of this particular publication, and that's the problem. Not that we don't see it, but that we do, and we look away. This becomes more difficult if we name what is happening, the normalizing of eugenics. Particularly because I'm, the writer, Jewish, I do not use the term eugenics lightly. I realize it immediately brings to mind the barbarism of the Third Reich, but it also comes in subtler and less overt forms. Eugenics is often framed as part of a past that is over. I think the pandemic has demonstrated that's not entirely the case. In the present moment, market eugenics is both more insidious while also more pervasive. Governments around the world are not even pretending to have a way out of the pandemic, but in declaring surrender as victory, telling the public it's simply time to learn to live with COVID. Unlike herd immunity, the sacrifices of elderly and disabled lives serve no particular ends, but are just part of a normal way of life we will learn to accept uncritically. And sadly, as a society, we are becoming fast learners. And this is a long and thorough article, and it's just so interesting because, as the writer concludes, I fear I may be a bit preachy. Likely I only perceive this psychological and moral calamity because it is so directly impacting of me. And I at least have the privilege to work from home, but with the ubiquitous downplaying of the pandemic, perhaps not for that much longer. Chronically ill and poor, noting poverty correlates with ill health and or working class, the majority of who are racialized people are not as fortunate. I want us, the left, not to merely acknowledge the injustice, but look at it unflinchingly. The normalizing of eugenics will lead to darker places than we are even at right now. Who knows what society will tolerate in the next pandemic? Organized action on the left is both a moral imperative and our only hope. And that's the idea. Well, just live with it. If you die, you die. It's God's way. It's the punishment that's intended to befall you. And there are people who don't want to believe that. And people who don't believe that say that's not true. If we protect each other, if we wear masks, we can all survive together. But there are selfish, awful, terrible people in the world who don't want that. They think your suffering is good enough. We have to live our lives. We cannot be dragged down by the immunocompromised and by people who are too scared to breathe without a mask. It's a bit insane, and COVID is still on the rise. They're expecting another, the fourth wave, the fifth wave to hit this summer and travel us into the fall. And how will we react? It's not looking great if you're a person who is vulnerable to these sorts of viruses. And now we're taking another brief break, blood pressure break. Back in a moment. And we're back, live and in concert, in the Omaha Civic Auditorium. Just kidding. I'm David Bowles. This is Bowles.tv, BOLES.television, TV. We are here with you live Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. And the Jana Marie is with you as well, Saturday and Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the weekends. Well, we had an interesting conversation today about celebrity and gambling and responsibility and how all of this fits together. And I'm reminded of the child stars of the past who have always had a hard time living their lives as adults. And then I think of a celebrity that is earned and misbegotten and tossed away. And one such example that has been on my mind lately is this unfortunate idea of Peyton Manning, who is a football player. Big star at University of Tennessee, and there was an incident, as I understand it, when he was a football player, and they had a female physical trainer there, and she was, as I understand it, sort of sexually harassed by him. And she was helping wrap part of his body or something, and he put his sexual member on top of her head, and everyone laughed, and she was embarrassed, and she, I guess, sued the university and won some money, and then he wrote a book about it and made fun of her, and she sued him, and he paid her money, and their agreement was he could not mention her name anymore. And then, I guess in another book, he mentioned her name and said how ridiculous she was, and she sued him again and won again. So it's this kind of vicious cycle where you think that you are born into sort of football royalty and you can behave in a certain way and not have repercussion. And there are some people, some women, in this case, who stood up and said, no, you can't treat me that way. And the only way, currently in America, that you pay reparations for that sort of thing is through money. And she got paid a lot of money. So that sort of history, and if I'm remembering it wrong, I certainly apologize, but it led me to do a little bit of a search in preparation for this topic. Peyton Manning, sexual harassment, on the Google. And we get 819,000 results. And look at the titles. Peyton Manning sexually assault cover-up. Peyton Manning sexual assault deposition. Inside the sexual assault allegations against Peyton Manning. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And then you click on one of the articles, Bleacher Report, Peyton Manning sexual assault cover-up alleged in New York Daily News Report. And there's Peyton Manning. Here's the story, a sweeping lawsuit filed by 6 former female students against the University of Tennessee. Last week, this is, what year was this? I don't know, but we'll find out because we're going to look at the next article in a minute. Last week, Arch's sexual department has long condoned a hostile sexual environment stretching back to the mid-1990s, citing nearly a dozen instances of former student athletes accused of sexual assault, including Manning. And here is that story. From 2016, okay? So this is not new news. This news has been out there. This reputation has been placed on the record and examined. And yet, reputation and the royalty appears to have traveled on, untouched and unscathed. But are we surprised? Peyton Manning's squeaky clean image was built on lies, as detailed in explosive court documents showing ugly smear campaign against his alleged sexual assault victim. 13 years ago, USA Today obtained 74 pages of explosive court documents on Peyton Manning, Archie Manning, his father, the University of Tennessee, and Florida Southern College that revealed allegations of a sexual assault scandal, a cover-up, a smear campaign of the victim that was so deep and so widespread and so ugly that it would have rocked the American sports world to its core. Yet, USA Today never released those documents for reasons I cannot explain. Ms. Peyton, while a student at the University of Tennessee, and this is the in-depth article about what happened and why. And this is, I guess, the defense against Peyton Manning. To begin with, Dr. Jamie Notright was not a girl sexually assaulted by Peyton Manning. She was an esteemed professional, widely admired by students and peers alike at the University of Tennessee, where she was the director of health and wellness for the men's athletic program. Originally from New Jersey, Notright had made Knoxville her home away from home. In 1991, she earned her BA from the University of Tennessee in exercise physiology with a minor in football coaching. I didn't even know such a minor existed. A year later, with a 3.7 GPA, she earned her master's degree in health and education and promotion. A few years later, with a 3.925 GPA, she earned her doctorate from the University of Tennessee in health education and wellness. In fact, Jamie Notright has been a staple across all sports programs at the University of Tennessee and had more tenure than most of the football staff, including the coach at the time, Phil Fulmer. As an undergraduate in 1989, Notright, who had interned for a year with the women's athletic program, including the world-famous UT women's basketball team, was transferred to the men's programs. According to court documents and affidavits, her boss, associate trainer Mike Rollo, perceived Notright to be a lesbian. Rollo, who had just left working with a group of young women he also thought to be lesbians, allegedly began calling Notright a sea bumper. This wasn't a rare occurrence or something he said to her only in private. He allegedly called her that in front of others for 3 years until 1992, when Notright built up enough courage to complain. She said she was almost exclusively called sea bumper, or bumper for short, by a variety of staff members in the program. In the fall of 1994, Peyton Manning entered the University of Tennessee football program as the already famous son of legendary college and pro football star Archie Manning. That semester, on his first on campus, some type of incident involving Manning and Notright occurred. By request of counsel Peyton Manning, the details of that incident have been sealed, and 3.5 pages concerning it have been redacted from the permanent record. Whatever happened, Notright claims it colored and informed the professional interactions between Notright and Manning from that time on, and caused Manning to consistently harbor anger toward her. Yet, in spite of the drama, Notright served as the medical director for the NCAA Track and Field Championships in 1995. On February 29 of that year, Notright, at that point the university's director of health and wellness, was in a training room, examining what she thought might be a possible stress fracture in Manning's foot. At 6 feet 5 inches, his feet dangled off the edge of the table. Manning allegedly then proceeded to scoot down the training table while Notright examined his foot. At that point, she said, he forcefully maneuvered his naked testicles and rectum directly in front of her face, with his penis on top of her head. Shocked, disgusted, and offended, Notright pushed Manning away removing her head out from under him. Within hours, she reported the incident to the sexual assault crisis in Knoxville. According to court records, Manning initially denied the incident ever took place. It was a calculated risk. He was the star quarterback, Heisman Trophy hopeful, likely number 1 pick in the NFL draft. While Notright was now a respected member of the staff, Manning was the star. The savior of Tennessee football. It was his word against hers. Hey, you messed up. I still don't know why you dropped your drawers. Maybe it was a mistake, maybe not, but it was definitely inappropriate. Please take some personal responsibility here and own up to what you did. I never understood why you didn't admit it. That's from a friend of his, Saxton. Coming clean's the right thing to do. Your celebrity doesn't mean you can treat folks that way. For anybody other than Peyton Manning, such damning statements from a fellow student who had no dog in the fight would have been the nail in their coffin. As a general rule, it is not just gross to smash your testicles on a woman's face, it's a crime. And this article goes on and on. And as I said, anybody else, this would be the end of a career, and not just a career, but any commercial endorsements. I mean, the people know that this is his history of what he is as a person. There's Peyton's dad, Archie Manning. So we go from Peyton Manning and an idea of being untouchable into this article that was recently published by the Los Angeles Times. And this has been all over the news as well. A child star at 7, in prison at 22. Then she vanished. What happened to Laura Lee Michael? I'll put this in chat because it's a very long, well-written article. And it's a story of a young woman who made a lot of money, had a lot of friends, and by the age of 7, 8, 9, 10, her life was over. She had amassed wealth and fame, and then she didn't. And then she disappeared, and her family went looking for her. She was in prison for a time. Her family didn't know what happened to her. They went searching for her. And this reporter got involved and did some research and started hunting her down, and then had a meeting with the family and said, I'm very sorry to tell you, but she died in something like 1979. And nobody knew she was dead. Her family didn't know, and they burst into tears. And this story, as you're reading it and coming out of Los Angeles, it really makes you think about these child stars. Can we think of a child star who had a good life after the fame wore off? Maybe Shirley Temple? She got out, she married, became an ambassador, and I mention these things just because she sort of went on a normal trajectory for a normal life. Married for a while, wasn't embroiled in a lot of scandal or upstaking, remained married for a long time. And then you think of just like the Partridge Family and Danny Bonaduce. Had a hard life, very popular as a kid, then got older, aged out of the roles he was having, had several marriages, deeply involved now in radio and trying to make money that way, and doing all right. And now I guess he's having a hard time with his health, and he's on crutches or a cane or something, and looks like he's wasting away. And does anybody care, or do they only care to gawk? Todd Bridges, David Cassidy. Huge. Big superstar. Partridge Family. Famous father. And what happened to David Cassidy? Where did David go? David Cassidy? David Cassidy is dead now. And he was a big, big star. And he had a drinking problem, sort of like his father. And his father, Jack Cassidy, always felt that David was in competition with him. And his dad was a very good actor, did a lot of Columbo shows early on with Peter Falk. And his dad couldn't enjoy David's success because he didn't think he earned it. He thought he was just a pretty boy, and his dad had worked very hard and very long to be an actor, and he was, but he did not have this wild, hot success that David had. So David spent a lot of his time drinking and recovering, and sometimes he would, reappear and was on Broadway with his, half-brother Sean Cassidy, Blood Brothers. They were in that together. Then he was in a couple of other shows that toured, but the word on the street was always, look, you got to be careful with David. You don't know which David you're going to get. And not being reliable in the theater is a big, big problem. Not being reliable on television is sort of a problem. In movies, it's not really a problem because they just shoot around you and they pep you up and they can break it in parts. But when you're on a live stage and you're not able to perform 8 shows a week, you quickly get blacklisted and blackballed. And I believe David Cassidy, on his deathbed as he was dying, said to his daughter, so much wasted time. And at the end, he realized he was very sick and dying, and that he had wasted his time, his talent, the promise of his life, and he had wasted it on nothing. Addiction, I guess. And that sort of self-awareness is really something of which tragedies are made. And we just look at how Oedipus ends with the realization of who he's really been sleeping with all this time. And similarly, in a similar vein, but not the same fact, David Cassidy realizes on the edge of his deathbed, oh my goodness, I could have had such a wonderful life, but I was weak. And I wasted so much time. And David Cassidy was a superstar. He was really terrific. You look at the early Partridge Family shows, and you absolutely love the guy. You root for him, and with Danny, the two of them together, magical. And then Jeremy Gelbwax comes to mind. Do you remember Jeremy? He was on the Partridge Family. He was the original Chris on the Partridge Family. And then after 1 year, he was let go because he was difficult to work with. That's the word on the street, okay? So Jeremy Gelbwax was in the Partridge Family as Chris for 1 year, then replaced and was never again. And what happens to this kid who had wild fame on the hottest show on television? And then the powers that be said, look, kid, we don't want you. For whatever reason. Maybe it was his mother was difficult or somebody was difficult. I don't know. According to Partridge Family co-star David Cassidy, Gelbwax had personality conflict with every person in the cast and with the producers. He's a little kid. In a 2005 interview with the Television Academy Foundation, Shirley Jones mentioned that Gelbwax was not happy doing the show. His parents wanted him to do it, so we replaced him. He stopped acting when his family moved to Reston, Virginia, where they remained for 1.5 years before moving to Connecticut and later to Potsdam, New York. His father, Norman, taught computer science at the University of New York at Potsdam. Now, when I was at Columbia University, Jeremy Gelbwax was cast in a show. The director of the show knew him, and it was, hey, Jeremy Gelbwax. And people were just coming to rehearsal and to see Jeremy Gelbwax. And he looks exactly, I think he was 40 at the time, something like that. He looks exactly like this as a 40-year-old, except he had glasses. Looks exactly the same person. So looking at him, you knew that is, hey, Jeremy Gelbwax. So I guess at the time he must have been, what, maybe 30. And people said it was risky because if you were a fan of the theater and you were a fan of television, you knew his history, you didn't get along, people didn't want him, he was there. And there was a certain sense of, I understand, entitlement. I wasn't part of the show, I don't know, but I did see Jeremy Gelbwax in the rehearsal studio, and it was a little bit of a thrill. Being a bohunk from Nebraska, as a first-year MFA student at the Columbia University, seeing Jeremy Gelbwax walk into a rehearsal studio was a bit of a thrill. And he seemed very excited, but tightly wound. And I don't know if he finished the show or not. I don't remember. But he didn't give up acting. He was trying. We haven't really heard of him since then. And it's hard when you have David Cassidy, who you worked with, is not on your side, saying, okay, get out. And that looks like, he's tried to have a life as a consultant and studied business at Columbia University, which I guess is where that director found him, became a management consultant, got married, moved to New Orleans, where he's a technology planner. So we wish all the best for Jeremy. Look, he's still alive. He's still doing well. A lot of these young stars don't make it into middle age. And then you think of other people. Lance Kerwin, when I was young. Big superstar. James at 15. James at 16. You could not get away from him. Where is he now? Gary Coleman from Different Strokes. Remember him? Had a lot of health problems. I believe he said he had $9 million stored that he had earned, that when he turned 18, I guess, that the money would become his. He turned 18 or 21, and the money was gone. And he said, where's all my money that I earned on Different Strokes? And there had been protections in place to protect child actors from their money being stolen by their parents. That the money belonged to the kid, not the parent. It had to be in a trust for the parent, for the kid, not the parent. But in Los Angeles, parents, I guess, can petition a court without the involvement of the child and go and say, look, we're Gary Coleman's parents. We're not working. He's not working anymore. He's too old now. Nobody wants him. We need to dip into his trust fund to pay for our expenses. And I understand it, they kept going back and back and back and back, and the court kept giving them money and money and money and money until the day came when they had spent all of his money. And almost the same exact thing happened to Dustin. What's his name? What last name? Saved by the Bell. Dustin and Diamond. Same thing happened to him. His parents stole all of his money. And he's dead too. He died in 2021. Didn't have a penny. So fame, fortune shines on some, like Peyton Manning, and fame and fortune shines on others for a very limited time, and then you live the rest of your life in darkness and despair trying to reclaim that glitter in the gold. And you think when you reach a certain age, it's going to be there waiting for you until you find out that your parents betrayed you and stole every penny you made. Now, a brief break. We return in a moment. And we're back from break. I'm David Bowles. This is Bowles TV, BOLES.TV television. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Well, on the break, I decided we should just take a look at this obituary from David Cassidy. It's just so sad. I lied about my drinking. David Cassidy drank to his death to cover up the sadness. There he is, David Cassidy. It's just so sad. And he was having a hard time. His performances were not good. He was not remembering lyrics. He was in full dementia. David Cassidy died of liver failure at age 67 in November of 2017. So he has been dead for 5 years. And he denied that he was drinking again. He hadn't overcome his struggle with alcohol, not at all, and his dementia was neither related to a disease like Alzheimer's nor was it permanent. Instead, it was a temporary condition brought on by his alcoholism, a devastating disease. I have liver disease, Cassidy said, admitting that there is no sign of me having dementia at this stage of my life. It was a complete alcohol poisoning. It might seem like a surprising revelation given the publicity David Cassidy had maintained when he was dry. The singer addressed this as well, and the fact is I lied about my drinking. The head doctor of the hospital, she said, I believe your dementia was directly related to your alcoholism. I did it to myself. I did this to myself to cover up the sadness and the emptiness. Now, isn't that people would say, how could David Cassidy be sad? He had the world in front of him. He was a recording superstar. Even later in his life, he was on Broadway with his brother Sean in a big hit show, Blood Brothers. They sang together. It was spectacular. But it wasn't enough. Not everyone was surprised. Part of alcoholism is lying, said Partridge Family member co-star Danny Bonaduce, according to People. When you're an addict, you know you can't be honest with people. You say what you want them to hear. I can't be mad at David for that, but it's still a tragedy. And Danny's having his own hard times. This is what I was telling you about. This is Danny when he was feeling better. Had a hard life too, and this is Danny from April 29th of this year, right here, with a cane. He doesn't know what's wrong with him. Sad news to share, some news to share, sorry. I'm taking a temporary medical leave from my radio show. I'll work more when I know more. I'm still working toward receiving a diagnosis, but what I know is I need time to focus on my health. I love my job, and I'll be talking to you guys soon. I'll be back on the air soon, and that is Danny, a shadow of himself. Danny was into a lot of boxing and martial arts, and this is Danny now. Now, Danny said he took a lot of drugs, steroids sometimes to get his muscles up. There's Gordon. Love his Mariners shirt. Full recovery, Danny. I really hope so. Danny's had a really tough life, but he hasn't made ever any excuses. When he was on stuff, he said, look, I'm on stuff. When he made mistakes, he said, I made mistakes. And he and David Cassidy were in touch throughout their entire lives. And they, I believe, were friendly with each other. So that's a good thing. Well, to relieve some of our sadness, here's a wonderful story. I read this over the weekend and maybe was crying. I'm not crying, Gordon's crying. And I sent it to Jana Marie, and she read it and she started crying. She's not crying, I'm crying. Eva, the hero dog, beats back a mountain lion that attacked her owner on a hike. And you read this whole thing, you think, oh, isn't it nice that this woman was attacked by a mountain lion and a dog came in and saved her. Oh, isn't that great? But then you read the story, oh boy. This woman was attacked by a mountain lion, a scrawny mountain lion, starving. And I guess she was very viciously slashed by claws and was bleeding. And she didn't know what to do because this cat was attacking her. So all she could do was yell out for her dog, Eva, Eva, Eva. And Eva came running. Eva's canine instincts kicked in. She came running to protect a member of her pack who had just been scratched by a wild animal and tackled the cougar. And that's okay, great. Story's over. No. The story goes on. And the story isn't exactly very well written because it skips over a lot of important details, and you sort of have to put together what the heck we're talking about. The majority of California is mountain lion habitat, but it's really, really, really uncommon for this to happen. I've seen just a handful over the years, over my career of 25 years. We don't recommend, the ranger said, that people change their plans to go out and recreate in the wild. But once the cougar got its jaws around Eva's neck, the 55-pound dog was in trouble. If you take a really close look at the anatomy of a lion's skull, it is incredibly well adapted to create significant crushing power. That's how they kill their prey. They typically would grasp onto the head or neck and simply crush that prey animal to death. That, unfortunately, what was happening to poor Eva the dog. After the initial shock of being scratched by the mountain lion, Wilson, the owner who called for Eva to help her, started throwing rocks to get the cat to drop the dog. This is a big dog. My fight mode kicked in, and I started picking up rocks, and I was bashing in its skull as hard as I could. The mountain lion. I didn't even feel it at the time. I knew to choke it, go for its eyes, to hurt it. Then she got up and left her dog. Then she dashed up the riverbank to her truck, grabbed a crowbar, and flagged down a passing motorist. When Wilson got back, the cougar had dragged Eva several yards into the bushes. Houston, the person who was asked to help, grabbed a PVC pipe from her truck. Together, she and Wilson hollered and hit the lion until it released the dog and retreated. Eva, the dog, leapt up and ran into the road, and Wilson piled her into a pickup. Then, on the hour-long drive down a twisty mountain road to the vet, an hour, the dog started convulsing. And Wilson realized her beloved companion's injuries were serious and life-threatening. That's when I really started speeding, she said. I definitely passed a bunch of people in double yellows. I did not give an F. Eva's skull and jaw were fractured, and her eye was swollen shut. She spent almost a week recovering in the veterinary clinic. She did not need surgery, but might lose sight. In her left eye. And they set up a GoFundMe to cover the bills. And there is Eva, recovering at home. Eva the dog. Wonderful, incredibly written story, really. There's a link in chat. Oh gosh, a lot of crying today. David Cassidy dying. Gordon says full recovery, Eva, full recovery. Absolutely. Beautiful story. And that's what we all wish for. When the Peyton Manning was abusing these child stars, the woman with her dog Eva, and then Eva. Would you be interested in seeing something truly bizarre? Of course, Gordon, of course. And the thing we want is that when we are in need of help, that someone will come and help us. And for some of us, like David Cassidy, there's no help that can be given. For Eva the dog, got some help. A Polish group LARPing Americans in a trailer park on the 4th of July. I'm impressed as F. Now this is taking me to Facebook. If this is something that's going to make me upset. 4th of July LARP, performing arts. LARPing is, what does that mean again? Real life art, role playing, something like that. Oh, it's in Polish. Oh, it's in Polish. Okay, so I guess these are LARPers. $113 photographs. Okay. They are thank you, live action role playing as Midwestern Americans. Oh, that's funny. So I guess they're playing maybe to the stereotype of what we think a Midwesterner is, huh? Which is probably not that hard. I mean, I call myself a bohunk from Nebraska, and some people get variants. Don't call yourself that, but that's what I am. That's the whole history of who we are. We're Czech. We're a mixture of Czech and English. Yeah. Practice their farmer's wave. Now, why people want to pretend to be from the Midwest and they're Polish, I don't know. I don't understand it. So every photo see is of Polish people in Poland dressed and posing as their impersonation of Americans in Ohio. Oh. Well, that's good. It's very effective. They look like they fit right in. It seems if you wanted to LARP, it would be so much easier to be something that would be more interesting, because Midwestern people, not that interesting. Several years ago, I had this guy who wanted to write a movie about LARPing, and it had to do with becoming animals, and I didn't understand any of what he was wanting to do. And I said, I'm very happy to help you, but you're going to have to explain to me why and what. And he couldn't really put it in English, which I guess is why he needed me to help him. But I couldn't help him because I couldn't get my idea around what he was trying to do. I understood what LARPing was. I understood role-playing. I understood the animal aspect. But he had very grand plans, and I just was not able to help him. Well, if I were going to role-play and spend my time and my money, I would want to role-play as Eva the dog. Or as David Cassidy, even at his height. Because nobody was more popular. And David Cassidy could sing. David Cassidy had massive talent. You go back and you listen to the Partridge Family albums, and it's not like the Monkees, where they hired people to come in and play all the instruments and sing. David Cassidy is very talented. He can sing. And I guess that's the lesson of today. Friend of the weekend, Kathy Husker, is in need of a lot of help and support. And when you call for help, the people will come. And then sometimes you live such a life where you make a call for help and people either don't believe you or they're not interested in helping you. And then you're not necessarily in trouble, but you are definitely on your own. And that really is the secret of life, is you hope people will come running to help you in your time of distress and your time of need. And sometimes they either can't hear you, they don't want to hear you, or they're incapable of helping. And that's why when it comes down to you, it's up to you. And that's the Midwestern in some of us. That you know when the storm comes, and you're stuck in your cabin, and you're encapsulated by snow or threatened by a tornado, and you're in your storm cellar, that help is not going to come, at least not right away. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. You're going to have to survive in your own way, with your own smarts and your own substance and your own muscle and your own will to live. And it reminds me of this ridiculous story. This guy was in a plane accident. He was flying his own plane, and it crashed in the Florida Everglades, I believe. This is many years ago. And he had multiple injuries and was dying. And yet he refused to die, and he stayed with the plane, which is what you do. If you're ever stranded somewhere, stay with the plane or stay with the car. And people who do these hunts for lost people say, we always find the car. And they usually never find the person. So if you're lost, if you don't know where to go, stay with your car. They always find the car. So this guy stayed with his plane because he really couldn't go anywhere. And he was rescued and taken to the hospital. They said, how did you survive? I think it was like 5 days, no food, no water. What happened? How were you able to survive? And the guy said, well, I'm going through a divorce. And it's not finalized yet. So if I died, all of my money would go to my wife. And I said, there's no way she's getting half of my money, all of my money. She's going to get half, but she's not going to get all of it. Now, like it or not, that is a very powerful will to live. And yes, it's based in hatred and revenge and cruelty. But it helped him survive for 5 days. Sometimes you can rely on your rage and your anger to get you through a difficult moment. You don't always have to be pious and innocent and doing the right thing. Sometimes rage, if it's not directed at other people, but internalized as a force of substance, can come in and save the day. So in that case, the guy survived, and I guess he lived to go on and properly divorce his wife. And in some people, that will to live is just missing. They just want to kind of give up. And we have friends, 2 years, COVID, oh, my mother died, oh, it's COVID, I haven't left my apartment in 2 years, I'm too scared to go outside, I'm just going to stay home and hide. I've given up on life. And that's, a form of depression, it's a form of loneliness, of lonesomeness, of being disconnected, of hoping to make a call for help and no one arrives. Mr. Rogers always says, if you're in trouble, look for the helpers. It's the helpers who will get you out of it. And sometimes we need to be our own helper. At least until the people who are paid to be a helper can come in and help you. Well, that's our show for today. Interesting, wide-ranging series of topics. And I thank you so much for being here. If you have any thoughts or comments about what you've heard or what you'd like to hear, you can email me, david@bowles.tv. You have questions or concerns for the Jana Marie, jana@bowles.tv. Commissioner Gordon says, thanks for having us. I'm always delighted when you're here, Gordon. Thank you so much for your participation and your interesting take on what's going on in the world. On Facebook, we're BOLES, Bowles. Instagram, it's Bowles Books. TikTok, Bowles TV. And I'm going to put our Discord server in one more time, because if you're here with us here and you're in our voice chat channel, you can actually just turn on your microphone and have a little chat with me while we're live streaming. It's a fun thing if you're interested. Oh, now the Bowles bot is working. Fabulous. It wasn't working before, but now it is. That's good news. It's a good way to end and then begin, because every ending is always a beginning. So until tomorrow at 9 a.m., I hope you have a wonderful nap, a great sleep, a good evening, and when ye shall awaken, may your soul be filled with joy and anticipation of helping others. I'll see you tomorrow.